All right, we are live. Welcome back to the Fast Break podcast here on the Variety Sports Network. I'm your host, Shoot to Rock, and we have, outside of March Madness, the greatest week of college basketball. It's really already started. I mean, that's why we're starting late tonight. I was watching this Memphis-Purdue game. Honestly, kind of felt like a March game the way that Memphis was giving Purdue, some trouble. It felt, kind of like a 1-8 matchup here, in the second round where the one seed struggling a little bit with the 8 seed, and that was a really good game. Purdue just got the win there. Playing in the Bahamas, but starting Monday, we got the Maui Invitational, we got the Players Era Tournament, we have Battle for Atlantis starting on Wednesday. There's a whole bunch of other tournaments. Like I said, they've already started today. Some of them, you're able to watch, like this Bahamas Championship. Others are on places like Baller TV or others you've never heard of before. So I'm going to kind of go through, give my preview, kind of talk about all the major ones here, maybe some other games to watch. However, we are going to start with, there was some great games in college basketball this week, most notably Champions Classic on Tuesday from Madison Square Garden. It was the 15th edition of the Champions Classic. And I know, a lot of people, they kind of whine a little bit about this event of like, oh, it's called the Champions Classic. Michigan State hasn't won a national championship since 2000. Like, it seems to be almost a yearly moaning, especially from UConn fans recently. Well, Michigan State kind of put a lot of those people in their place. They win 83-66 over Kentucky. The Spartans improving to 4-0 now on the season. I'm done picking against them. I picked against them, back on my other channel, against Arkansas again, and now against Kentucky. Both times they've proven me wrong. Michigan State, they got a real squad this year. Jackson Kohler, very good game for him. 20 points on 8 of 12 shooting, 2 for 2 from beyond the arc, and that was the main thing for this. The big difference in this, Michigan State shot 50% from 3 in this game. And that's, that plays a big role when some of their guys that aren't necessarily shooters can do that. I mean, Kurt Tang off the bench, 15 points, 3 of 7 from 3, 6 of 12 in total. Jeremy Fears Jr., he only had 8 points, but he had 13 assists in this one. So he was doing a good job finding the open shooters, getting Michigan State good shots, and they were just knocking them down all night. Like I said, 50% from the field, 50% from the floor in total. And Kentucky, like I'm a little concerned about this Kentucky team. This now, the second straight week they suffer a not a bad loss. It's not like some of these other teams. For example, I was at the Marquette-Dayton game last night. Marquette already suffered their third loss, losing to Dayton on their home floor. That's a bad loss. Are these bad losses for Kentucky? No, but when you're a national championship caliber already in their 2 like big tests on the year, they've lost both. They failed both tests. That's not something you necessarily, want to see. So the leader for them in this one was Otega Owe with 12 points. Once again, on 12 shots. He was kind of their guy last year that could just score the ball at will. And this year, he's just not had that same success, at least not in, these 2 games that I've really watched against Michigan State and Louisville. Denzel Aberdeen had 10 points with the same thing on 8 shots. Colin Chandler, 10 points on 9 shots. Just really not an efficient shooting night, and that really was the big difference this one. Kentucky shoots 35% from the field, 23% from 3. I already talked about how well Michigan State shot the ball. So granted, are the Spartans going to shoot that well every game? No, but they just kind of keep finding ways to get it done, and that's the Tom Izzo special there. That's coaching, in all honesty. And granted, I think Mark Pope was a good hire for Kentucky. I know some people are kind of already running him out of town, and I think that's definitely way too, that's just a huge overreaction. But I don't know. That's kind of what you get in these, basketball hotbed areas like Kentucky. So shout out to Michigan State. Another big one. Like I said, I'm really high on the Spartans. I'm not going to be picking against them for a little while here, at least, probably not until conference play. So they improved to 4-0 on the year. And then the other game, Duke Blue Devils take down Kansas 78-66. Granted, I kind of mentioned it, or well, again, same thing on my other channel in the preview. There was no Darren Peterson for Kansas in this one, but Cam Boozer really showed out. Like I said, I was hoping to get the Boozer versus Peterson freshman duo, but it's just Boozer. 18 points. Grant did take 17 shots, but also had 11 rebounds, 5 assists. So just overall, solid game for him. This was like a very just kind of scrappy game, in all honesty. Neither team was super efficient shooting the ball. Both teams under 50% from the field. But it was more of just kind of like a grinded out game. Isaiah Evans also had 16 points for Duke. Anyone else really notable? Patrick Nwagba had 13 points, 6 rebounds. But yeah, Duke, they just I feel like did a good job of kind of turning this into a dog fight, really kind of mucking the game up against Kansas, knowing that Kansas was without their best player, and they did a good job getting Flory Badunga into foul trouble for Kansas. He only had 14 points for Kansas because most of the game he was on the bench with fouls. I mean, they got Bryson Tiller to foul out with only 6 points. Trey White really stepped up for Kansas in the guard role, 22 points with 9 rebounds, 4 assists. And then Melvin Council, too, solid game for him, 15 points just on 15 shots. That's what I'm saying. Just really good defense from Duke, but did have 6 assists. So this Kansas team, they're good. And at points, there was a point, I was live watching this game. I think Kansas is going to come back because while they were down, they would do a good job of kind of having an answer, but then Duke would just kind of answer right back, take the lead back for the Blue Devils. Yeah, I don't know. This Duke team, 5-0. They've now won both their big games against Texas and Kansas. They got another big one on Thanksgiving next week against Arkansas at the United Center. So they're not playing in any tournaments, but they still got a big game next week. So, but I've been pretty pleased with what I've seen from this Blue Devil squad so far. Definitely think they're one of the better teams in the country. So good win for them. Then we move on to Wednesday. We had really good games on Wednesday as well. Honestly, the Wednesday doubleheader I think was even better than the Champions Classic here. It starts with Arizona going into Storrs, into Gampel Pavilion, taking down UConn 71-67. And this was another big Koa Pete game, but also Jaden Bradley. Jaden Bradley was the bucket getter in this one. 21 points for him. On 6-13 shooting, go with 3 rebounds, 2 assists, but he just did such a good job, getting into his spots, making tough shots. Cole Pete had a good one as well, 16 points, 12 rebounds. I really liked his physicality, same thing, just ability to find his spots in this one. While granted, didn't shoot the ball as well, only 7-14. I think, just physically, you could feel how dominant he was. Other notables for Arizona was really just kind of those two. Matas Krivas had 9 points and 14 rebounds. So another, like I said, the Arizona Bigs did a really good job rebounding the ball, out-rebounding UConn 43-23 in this one. I mean, that's a big deal when you out-rebound a team by that much. On the UConn side, they're led by Eric Rebe. He had a really good game for them. Kind of maybe not a guy who's been talked about as much for UConn, but him being their leading scorer with 15 points on 6 of 10 shooting, 2 of 5 from beyond the arc, 4 rebounds go that as well. Other notables, Silas Demery had 13 points and Solo Ball had 14. Really just not a great game from Alex Caravan. Only 8 points for him. Just that Arizona did a good job taking him out of the game in all honesty. He only took 5 shots this one, only had 3 rebounds. UConn will be fine. Granted, would you like to win this game at home? Yes. A big game like this. But I don't know. This is now Arizona. Arizona honestly could be the number 1 team in the country come Monday in the polls. It would not surprise me. Granted, I mean, there's really no reason, I would say, to drop a Houston or a Purdue who've kind of gone back and forth here through the first 2 weeks on being, the number 1 team in the poll, I guess, unless Purdue. They should, in theory, be playing Texas Tech in a big game tomorrow. We'll see if Texas Tech can take down Wake Forest in this next game here in that Bahamas Championship that I mentioned off the top. But, I mean, now, yeah, you see Arizona, they beat the defending national champions on opening night in Vegas. Granted, not at Pauley Pavilion, but in LA, beat UCLA, their rival who they've been playing forever. And now to go across the country in Storrs and get a win, just very impressive from this Wildcats team. And yeah, like I said, they could be the best team in the country. It's very early, but that's 3 very good wins in your first 5 games to pick up. So props to Arizona for that. And then the next one, Alabama bounces back after, losing to Purdue or at home last week. They go not to Illinois, but to the United Center and take down the Fighting Illini 90-86. And LeBaron Philon, this was a huge game for him. 24 points, 3 of 6 from beyond the arc. Also had 5 assists to go with it. Aiden Holloway was impressive in this one as well. 11 points. Grant didn't shoot the ball as well. 3 assists. And then Latrell Wrightsell, only 5 points, but 3 assists. Really was just played a big role in this game. Taylor Bowen and 12 points, 3 rebounds. And this was just a scrappy win from Alabama. I kind of thought that with this game being at the United Center, being in Illinois, that I maybe favor Illinois in this one just because I thought they could run with Alabama. And for the most part, they did. But Alabama just found a way to squeak it out, force some turnovers at the end as well. And then, yeah, just kind of like, I don't know, they made their shots more than Illinois did. I mean, this is a very, very like back and forth game. Illinois even led at halftime, but Alabama did a really good job jumping out to lead in the second half. Didn't get to fully watch this one in all honesty. Did watch highlights after, but like I said, I was at that Dayton Marquette game last night. On the Illinois side, they're led by 26 points from Andrei Stojakovic. This kid's like quickly becoming my favorite player in all of college basketball. He just so good at like finding his spots, hitting his shots. Like it's not even just like he's a 3-point shooter like his dad Peja. He honestly can score at all levels, which I'm really impressed with. Killian Boswell had another good game, 22 points for him, as well as 7 assists to go with that. Looking at anyone else, Ben Hermerchionis had 11 off the bench. David Mirkovic with 10 and 10 rebounds. But other than that, yeah, I don't know. This was just like a scrappy game, like both ways from what I saw on the highlights and just kind of when I caught the end of it. I'm trying to see really what made the difference. Yeah, I mean, like points off turnovers pretty close, fast break points. Illinois actually had more points in the paint. It was really just, I think Alabama just made their shots at a slightly more effective clip, and that really ended up being the difference in that one. So good win for Alabama. I mean, now they're same thing like Arizona. They've already played 3 big contests. Granted, did suffer that loss to Purdue, but to bounce back with this nice win against Illinois, and they still have even more games. Not this week, but next week, that should be really good. Like, I don't know. Props to Alabama. I love how they schedule. I wish more teams would schedule like that. And they're looking pretty good. Really solid road win for them here to start the year. Sorry, I ate before this. Yeah, I usually don't, so I'm a little bit more thirsty than usual. And if you guys got any takes on any of these games or picks on these tournaments we're about to get into, definitely let me know, because now we're moving on to the games this week. So let me pull up this bracket here. So first, the Maui Invitational. It starts on Monday in Maui, Hawaii. It's my favorite tournament. Granted, this year's field is not great, but it's like I said, it's really just like what I remember like growing up, and it really played a big deal in how I like kind of fell in love with college basketball, was like watching this tournament, staying up late, like on my Thanksgiving break when I didn't have to go to school the next day. And it was a lot of fun. So looking at the matchups here, we got Seton Hall versus NC State to tip it off on Monday. That one is at. Sorry, I have them up. It's going to take me a while to find all these, so I can just tell you that. That one's at 2:30 Eastern on ESPN2. Then we have USC Boise State in the second game. That one's at 5 Eastern on ESPN2. The third game, Washington State against the host Chaminade, who's a Division II school for those of you who are unaware of it. But this tournament's played at their gym. They used to play in this tournament every year. That was like my favorite thing. Like I remember in NCAA Basketball 10, which I still stream and still play a little bit, I would always like play the Maui Invitational and play as Chaminade and like try to win as Chaminade, because I just thought it was like cool. They used to play it every year. Granted, now it's just every other year. But yeah, so they play Washington State. That one is at where is that one at? Come on. Maybe they don't have projections for it. And then to end the night, 11:30 Eastern on ESPN2, Texas and Arizona. So looking here, we're going to look at the odds to win the tournament. NC State's the favorite at plus 170, then Texas at plus 200, USC plus 260, Arizona State 1,200, Boise 1,900, Washington State 3,500. And it is, like I said, it is a little bit of a disappointing field, especially after how stacked last year's field was with, Auburn, UConn, Memphis, UNC, Michigan State. And I'll get to it more when I talk about the players era. So definitely a down year. But I think NC State, like I said, the favorite in this one, that would probably be my pick. I'm looking at the projections here. Excuse me. Gosh, now I lost it. there. Okay, yeah. So NC State projected to beat Seton Hall. I mean, with guys like Darion Williams, who was I was a big fan of at Texas Tech last year. Him and Trey Holloway. I just don't really know if Seton Hall really has anyone who can contain those two guys. So for that, yeah, I like NC State to win that game. Against USC and Boise, the winner of that one, USC is projected to win that. Can't really say I've watched a whole lot of either of those two teams so far. USC played Illinois State that was like the game before UCLA and Arizona last week, but I was at the Bucks game, so I did not catch that one. And then Boise State, I mean, they've already lost to Division II school. I believe I want to say they lost their last game as well. The Mountain West is really not off to a great start so far this year. Like I said, that Boise State loss, UNLV did bounce back, beat Memphis, but they have some bad losses. San Diego State lost to Troy the other night. Just really hasn't been great for the Mountain West so far. I would say I probably like USC to take that one. I'd have to agree with that. As fun as it would be, Chaminade's not beating Washington State. Like I said, another team I really haven't watched a bunch of. I want to say they had I was watching them a little bit last night against not Santa Clara. Who was it? Southern Utah. And then Arizona State and Texas. That one is Texas projected to win by 6. Texas gave Duke a good game in that opening game. Arizona State said, I know they lost to Gonzaga last week at home. That one was during the Arizona UCLA game, so I wasn't watching it super closely. More Masop Diop has been a really good big for Arizona State this year, though. So if he has, I could see the Sun Devils winning that one, but I'd probably have to agree with the odds just from what I have watched so far this year. We're probably looking at a Texas-NC State final. And, NC State had a nice win against VCU on Monday. And VCU's going to be a solid squad in the A-10. They should be one of the favorites. But, NC State being a ranked team, I would probably have to agree. They're the favorite for a reason. There would be my pick. And then, second, I would probably go with Texas to win that one. What was I trying to pull up here? Oh, I was trying to pull up the USC and Boise's records. But yeah, like I said, I mean that should be a good game. Whoever, especially if it's USC against NC State, I think could be a good one. But yeah, I would just kind of have to agree with the odds if I'm a betting man. Yeah, USC really hasn't played anyone, just been Illinois State. And then, Boise bounced back from nice win against Wichita. So they really have, from that Hawaii Pacific game, looked a lot better. Granted, they haven't really played anybody other than Wichita State, but I'd have to agree. I'm going with NC State to win the Maui Invitational. Now moving on to the next tournament. We got the Battle for Atlantis. And this is probably not as good of a field. There is some very good mid-majors in this. Like I just kind of mentioned, VCU, one of the favorites in the A-10. St. Mary's has just kind of been killing everybody that they've played. I've been high on them. Nikos of Dallas on Vatek, not a mid-major, but they should be fun. And then Vandy's what's his name? It's like Tyler Thornton or something like that. Let me pull it up here. Tyler Tanner's been a bit of a bucket getter for the Commodores as well. So looking here at the odds for that tournament, Vandy's the favorite at -125, then St. Mary's at +260, Vatek at +650. So they're for sure the three favorites. Then you get down to VCU of 1,500, as well as South Florida 1,500, and then Colorado State is 2,500, Wichita State 5,000, Western Kentucky +15,000. So Vanderbilt being minus money is kind of interesting to me. And I think they probably do have a pretty good draw there against Western Kentucky in their first game. So looking at projections, yeah. Vanderbilt's projected to beat Western Kentucky by 14 at noon Eastern. And this tournament starts on Wednesday. It's Wednesday, Thanksgiving, and then Friday. So it's kind of Maui's early in the week. It's Monday through Wednesday. And this tournament's kind of the main later in the week one. Then the VCU and South Florida game. South Florida, I've kind of mentioned, they're probably one of the better American teams for this season, so they should be a lot of fun to watch. Or does it switch off? No, it is. It has to be South Florida. VCU's projected to win that one by 4. That one's at 2:30 Eastern on ESPN2. Then Colorado State projected to beat Vatech by 5 at 5 Eastern on ESPNU. And then Wichita State, St. Mary's, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN2. St. Mary's projected to win that one by 10. So if I had to go through my picks, I'd agree Vandy wins. VCU South Florida, like I said, that should be a really good one. VCU gave NC State like a pretty good game. Let me look at USF, who all they have played so far. I forget, in all honesty. I know they played somebody good. Who was it? One sec, I'm getting there. Sorry. If you guys, and like I said, feel free to drop in the comments who you guys have winning any of these tournaments. Why am I having such a hard time? There we go. All right, USF's 3-2 on the year. Their losses are to Oklahoma State and to George Washington. So two teams like George Washington should be pretty good. Oklahoma State has some good wins already as well. VCU's other loss to Utah State, who again is going to be one of the favorites in the Mountain West. Just kind of looking at it, I would probably have to go. I'd probably agree. I'm probably going VCU in that one. So that'd be VCU Vandy in the semis. Then look at the next game, Colorado State and Vatech. Projections do have Colorado State winning. But I don't know, like Nikos of Dallas has been really a lot of fun to watch. I would love to see him in some kind of high-level games. However, he hasn't really done as much since that like Providence game that everyone went crazy. Colorado State picked up a nice win against Loyola Chicago, and that really not a whole lot. And that game was in Chicago too. However, the Ramblers are off to a really, really tough start here. But yeah, I guess as much as I'd want to pick Colorado State, probably going, or Vatech, probably going Colorado State. And then, yeah, I'm going St. Mary's. Like I said, the Gales have just been kind of rolling everyone they played. And they've played some like good mid-major teams too. I mean, Paulus Marcialis or Marcialis, I don't know, all these Eastern European names I can't say, has been playing really well for the Gales so far. I'm trying to look here. Let me pull up their game. Sorry. Also, like some of this I got to look up on my phone. Can only have so many tabs open or else it like goes crazy. Mikey Lewis is the leading scorer for St. Mary's. Like I said, 5-0. Wins against St. Thomas, so they ran out of the gym. They beat Chattanooga by 20, beat Ohio by 30, North Texas by over 30, and then Arkansas State was their closest game so far, beat them by 13. So those are all like teams, which granted, you know, I'm a bit of a sicko here, but when I like teams that should be a lot of fun to watch this year, should be very good. So to win those games, very, very impressive for the Gales so far. Looking at their just kind of leaders, yeah, it's Lewis and Marcialis. Liam Campbell's also been averaging 10 a game. Hasn't got as many minutes. And then Joshua Dent. So a lot of guys for the Gales that can really fill the bucket. I mean, they're averaging 85 points per game. So like that should be a pretty high scoring one. Wichita State's also scoring at a pretty high clip, but yeah, I'm gonna go St. Mary's to win that one. And then yeah, I'm probably going St. Mary's and Vandy in the final. I think those are the two picks again. Granted, maybe that's a little square. Like I could see VCU beating Vandy. That's the thing. I think the Rams, so they played some good teams and they played them close. So for that reason, like if I were a betting man, I think my pick would be St. Mary's. I think they just have a bit better of a draw, like with Colorado State, Wichita State, and then probably Colorado State. I mean, maybe they play Vatech. Like I said, I would love to see that, but I would say the smart play there is probably go with St. Mary's. So we'll move on to the big one. Or no, sorry. Let me remove that. Go to banners. The players era. And before I preview it, I am going to go on a bit of a tangent here of. Here we go. Players are able, while it's great, going to Vegas for these schools. It's a lot of big name schools. It's great that the players, are getting NIL money potentially from like winning and stuff like that. In my mind, it's kind of killing a lot of these feast week tournaments because now you're seeing there's 18 teams at the players era this week, and you just saw it. The two conferences I previewed, the Maui Invitational and the Battle for Atlantis, usually have like high major like a lot of high major programs, whereas they like Maui this year, I really think it's NC State and Texas. No one else really like amazes me. Like it's like a lot of West Coast teams, oddly, which is kind of fun. That it's almost like bringing back the Pac-12 because literally of like the 18 teams, or of the 6 of the 8 teams, or 5, either were a former Pac-12 member in USC, Washington, Arizona State, a future Pac-12 member in Boise State. Well, Washington State's still going to be they're a past and future member. Texas, who at one point the whole Pac-16 almost happened. So like 5 of the teams kind of have, in the Texas one maybe a bit of a stretch, have ties to the Pac-12. Like that's, I don't know. It's just really doesn't jump off the page to me. Battle for Atlantis, we have good, mid-major programs, but Vanderbilt and Va Tech being the only major programs when in a field that last year had like Louisville, Indiana, I know for sure. I want to say like West Virginia. Like it had a lot of high major programs. And now we're just seeing a lot of those teams now go to the players era. And also the thing that bugs me about the players era, 18 teams is not a tournament. Like they do it last year, it was like goofy where they could have done, I don't know why they did this. They did 2 groups of 4 where you played 2 of the 3 other teams in your group. And then they did like a championship day, which was 3 days later. It was like they played Monday and Tuesday, and then they played Friday for all the championships, which I thought was kind of dumb. This year, that is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I think there's a couple games on Thursday, but it's mainly, I know, like the championship in 3rd place, but it's like that's not a tournament. That's the whole like appeal, I feel like, of Feast Week. Granted, mainly it is more of the locations, probably for the players and coaches and like the programs itself. But for the fans, I feel like the appeal of it is a tournament. It kind of feels like a mini like March Madness week. It's a lot easier to like, I feel like convince the parents and the family to throw college basketball on the TV when it's like, oh no, this is a championship game. Like people are gonna be heavily invested as opposed to it's just like, oh, these are just big games. So that's why I'm really not a huge fan. Also, like, I don't know, I looked into potentially going to it, and who knows, maybe, I guess I've never really looked super closely, like going to Maui or Atlantis or anything, and that's more of like destination. So too, but like the tickets are like not cheap to get in. The games are like kind of weird. I don't know if this year there is any, but like last year there was a bunch of games that were on like only on HBO Max, or like they tipped off at like 11 Pacific time, like just insanely. I don't think there's anything like that. The latest I'm seeing is a midnight Eastern here on Monday. Let's look at Tuesday. I think. Oh wait, that's Wednesday. Tuesday. Yeah, similar midnight Eastern, which I guess they just do the UNLV games. So I don't know. I'm just not as big of a fan. I wish it was just like a bracket, but they don't do that. So be it. All right, but let's get into that. So let me honestly share my screen for this because I feel like this is going to be a lot. Here we go. Players Era Festival. Is this going to work? There we go. Come on. Okay, here we go. So on Monday, we have number 22 Tennessee versus Rutgers at, these are all Eastern. 1 Eastern. Then Baylor Creighton at 2. Kansas versus Notre Dame at 3. St. John's versus Iowa State at 4:30. Houston Syracuse at 6. Oregon Auburn at 8. Alabama Gonzaga. That's probably the game of the day. Oh, that's what I was thinking. Alabama's a bunch of tough games there in players there. At 9:30, Michigan, San Diego State, 10:30, and Maryland, UNLV at midnight. Then the next day, Rutgers, Notre Dame at 1. Like, that's the thing. I remember watching last year, like Rutgers and Notre Dame tip off at like 11 Central. So I guess midnight Eastern. And it's like 1 in the morning, 1:20 in the morning. The game's in overtime. I like was out like drinking that night or something. The thing was Blackout Wednesday, yeah. And watching like Matt Alaco get buckets, which was kind of cool at the time, but also like I have a feeling most people that night aren't watching college basketball at 1:20 in the morning. Then we got Iowa State Creighton at 2:30, Kansas Syracuse at 3:30, St. John's Baylor. They played a great game in the Bahamas last year, so excited to watch those two run back. Houston, Tennessee, Michigan, Auburn, Gonzaga, Maryland, San Diego State against Oregon, and then Alabama, UNLV. I borderline don't even know how to break this down because it's like I go through, give my game by game. I guess, Tennessee, Rutgers, Tennessee's projected to win. Have to agree. That's kind of weird that Rutgers, like I understand why they were included last year with Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, but both those guys not being there anymore. I don't really think Rutgers is anyone that can stop Tennessee. Baylor and Creighton should be a good one. Kansas, Notre Dame. Kansas should win that one, yeah. Trying to really the notable ones like Iowa State, St. John should be a good game. Both those teams kind of face some tests already. Iowa State won pretty handily against Mississippi State. Obviously, St. John's lost to Alabama, so to watch kind of the guards in that one, Taman Lipsey against a lot of those St. John's guards should be a lot of fun. Kind of other ones like Gonzaga, Alabama should be a really good one. Like I said, the bigs in both those going at it should be a good matchup to watch. Gonzaga projected to win that one, but like literally like a 1-point game. Any other really notable ones? Michigan, San Diego State should be a good one. Granted, really depends if McGuath-Goon is playing for San Diego State. Like I said, they just suffered a really bad loss to Troy the other day. Like barely took it to overtime. Took like a crazy half-court shot. But then they knocked, they forced overtime on a half quarter and then lost in overtime still. Syracuse, Houston. Syracuse hasn't played anyone yet, so I'm excited to watch like Kean Anthony, but I just don't think they're going to be able to run with all the talent that Houston has. And then, that's really kind of it. Auburn, Oregon could be a good one. Granted, they're projecting Auburn to win by like double digits. I don't know about that. Then looking here at Tuesday. So sorry, this is loading. Oh no, never mind. That one loaded pretty good. They're projecting Notre Dame, Rutgers being another good one. Granted, like I said, I don't really think either of those teams are going to be super solid. Iowa State and Creighton could be fun. Kansas, Syracuse, like I said, Syracuse got a tough draw. I don't really think they're going to win any of these games. Houston, Tennessee at 6 Eastern on Tuesday on TNT. That should be a good one. I said Tennessee hasn't really played anyone yet, but like Nate Ament's really good for them. Really highly touted freshman. I'm trying to look here. Let me pull up the rest of the Tennessee roster, some of these other guys. So I know they do have more than just him. All right. Bear with me here. What's on that squad? Oh, Felix Okpara was on the team last year. And then, Nate Ament. Jacoby Gillespie is a good portal addition that they got from Maryland. He was a really fun guard, could fill the bucket last year. Cade Phillips is solid as well. That should be a good one. They do have Houston projected to win that. But that would definitely probably be one of the ones to watch here on Tuesday. Michigan Auburn projected to be a pretty close game. I mean, Auburn gave Houston all that they could handle. They could probably do the same to Michigan. We'll have to see. Granted, depends if Keyshawn. I haven't seen an update on Keyshawn Hall's injury for Auburn. So I guess it really kind of depends if he's playing. But also, I don't know. Michigan really hasn't looked too solid so far. Like that definitely would be a winnable game. Especially if Tahad Pettiford has a good game. Other than that, Gonzaga should beat Maryland. San Diego State projected to beat Oregon, and then UNLV, Alabama. So let me just kind of pull up these odds here again. Let me share this tab instead. All right, so looking at the odds. Houston's the favorite. Gonzaga second. Tennessee third, Iowa State. So let's see. So Houston, like I said, they play Syracuse and then Tennessee. So that Houston, Tennessee is really going to be a big one. Because Tennessee should be both those teams should win their first game. Tennessee against Rutgers and Houston against Syracuse. So I would say that one's really kind of going to determine who's there between those two, because those are two of the top favorites. Gonzaga, let me pull up their draw again. What's their draw again? Also, sorry, this probably is not the most entertaining. I probably should have thought a better way to do this. Why can I not find Gonzaga's first? Oh, Gonzaga. Okay, Gonzaga, Alabama's a big one. So if they win that one, and then it's the next day they play Maryland. So they should beat Maryland. So it's Gonzaga, Alabama is a pretty big game. The other game for Alabama is against who again? Also, that's the thing I just talked about. That's the thing. It's too many games. It's too many games. This is case in point right here. And then Alabama plays UNLV. So, I would really say, Alabama's there. St. John's, Kansas, Iowa State. Kansas plays Syracuse and Notre Dame. Yeah, Kansas should go 2-0. They got a very good draw. That's the thing. I don't know how they then determine that. St. John's has it must be some sort of NBA Cup type win margin or something. I don't know how in a 2-game tournament you can pick. There's gonna be more than they're 2-0 teams. So yeah, Iowa State, St. John's, I guess another kind of determining one. And then on Tuesday, St. John's plays Baylor, so that should be another tough game. And then Iowa State gets Creighton. So I guess if I had to pick, it's really down to the Houston, Tennessee. Houston would be my pick to win that one. Gonzaga, Alabama. I guess just how Gonzaga's looked so far would like Gonzaga. Kansas should be 2-0. So I don't know. I guess I almost wonder. Let me look this up. Players era tiebreakers. Based on overall team record, head-to-head record, a total point differential. Okay, capped at 20 points per game. Granted, this is also the Wikipedia one, so I don't know if this is 100% true. And it's also not popping up. So I would like I said, whoever wins Houston, Tennessee, which I have Houston, whoever wins Gonzaga, Alabama, which I have Gonzaga, it's probably going to be those two teams in the championship. However, Kansas could be there. Iowa State could potentially be there. Like I said, I don't think it's whoever kind of wins Iowa State, St. John's will probably be the other team in the mix, which I would. Checking, I don't know, man. I honestly might take St. John's that one. So I'd probably. So, all right. So, out of Houston, Gonzaga, Kansas, and St. John's, that's probably last on the list is St. John's. Whoever you like the most out of those teams, that would be who I bet on to win this. So, for me, just because of how dominant they have looked in all their games so far, and it's been against some good teams too, I'm going to go Gonzaga. Plus, out on the West Coast, they're going to be not having to deal with time travel or time zones. Like I said, some of these games can be kind of late. So I'm going to go Gonzaga as my pick. But yeah, secondary pick would probably be Houston. Then just because of their matchups, I would like Kansas. I'm trying to see who else I miss here. Michigan? Who's Michigan got again? I just had it up. Let me just pull this up. That's a lot easier than scrolling back and forth. Michigan has San Diego State and then Auburn. So tougher games, but winnable games. I don't know. Maybe even then you like Michigan. I don't know. With how just they've kind of looked in some of their games, I probably wouldn't take Michigan, but those are probably the best bets. So I'm going to go Gonzaga to win the Players era. Then just kind of finishing off, I do just want to show this tab. It has all the events. So shout out Ryan Hammer for putting this together. Kind of some other ones to watch here. So talked about players that'll talk about Maui, talked about Atlantis. Acrisure, they have like 4 different brackets here, so that's kind of funny. The main one's probably that one with Washington, San Francisco, Colorado, Nevada. That should be a pretty good bracket. Looking at other notables, the other probably biggest tournament is this ESPN Events Invitational in the it's the Magic bracket, where it's Dayton, Miami, BYU, and Georgetown. That one's on. That one starts on Thanksgiving. It's like Thanksgiving, and then I think maybe the next day, maybe that Friday. My pick in that one would probably be BYU, just how they've looked so far. Lost to UConn, but have played some tough teams. Do they play Georgetown? What's the bracket now? I wish this had the brackets. It's a great graphic. I shouldn't be complaining about it. Other than that, like I said, this Baja Mar one that's going down right now. Texas Tech, that just started. They're up 11-3 on Wake Forest. So hoping that them and Purdue tomorrow would be a really good game. Charleston Classic, it used to be this week. Now it's later next week. The bracket with Clemson, West Virginia, Georgia, and Xavier should be pretty good. I mean, even like Utah State and like Davidson, if they were to play in the final in that other bracket, that would be a good one too. Let me see here. Or no, it's BYU, Miami, and then Dayton and Georgetown. So I would probably pick BYU over Georgetown in that one. I don't think they had odds out for that. Let's see, the Paradise Jam, that one I believe starts tomorrow. Yeah, that one starts tomorrow. That one's on ESPN Plus. So daytime basketball tomorrow is what I'm very excited for. That's why I'm not super happy that they got rid of, like I said, Charleston used to start today, and then Myrtle Beach, which just I think now is either Christmas or just like I want to say it's just gone. They're just not doing Myrtle Beach anymore. Those used to start today, and then so like it was like starting today we had 11 a.m. basketball. There was this like boardwalk battle. I don't believe it's on it's not on this graphic. It was on Baller TV. That's another like thing I complained about. There's just way too many streaming services now for college basketball. Like that's the one thing about ESPN. As much as I shit on ESPN, at least it's like they have a lot of games. But yeah, now all these teams will be like, oh, I'm on Pass the Rock or Baller TV. Like I think I need to just start Shoot the Rock Plus, and then just have all the games on there. Maybe figure out some way to do that. Be a man of the people. So yeah, that's really, like I said, this is probably my favorite time of the year for college basketball outside of March Madness, obviously. I mean, that's why I love it. It's a lot of random tournaments. Mentioned the Rady Children's Invitational, like Florida, Providence, CCU, and Wisconsin. That could be some good ones. So a lot of good matchups. And like I said, it's going to be on pretty much all day, starting tomorrow through, probably not as many games Saturday, but like then once again, Monday, it's full go. So make sure, check all these games out. Like I said, a lot of good games. It's a really good time for, even if you mainly don't watch a lot until March, just to like kind of get an early gauge on some of these teams. Like I said, some of them you probably won't see again. But I just think it's fun. I mean, it's another one that's on, I think, a streaming service. I think it's on Baller TV. Like Murray State, George Washington, McNeese, and Middle Tennessee playing the Grand Cayman or the Cayman Islands Classic. That's going to be a really good one. Oh, he doesn't have it on here. There's like a Greenbrier tip-off that starts tomorrow too. That's also got some good ones. So a lot of good games this week. Make sure to check it out. Thank you guys for checking out the show. I'm not quite sure the schedule. Maybe we'll try to do, I know for a fact we will not be doing this on Thanksgiving. Maybe we'll try to do like a Monday or Tuesday show next week. Just kind of talking about some of these games. So, excuse me. Appreciate you guys so much for watching, and I will see y'all next time. Peace.